Welcome to Healthy Together, everyone. I need to get my calendar notifications off, or this will be a loud evening. All right, welcome to Healthy Together. Tonight, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Kirtley Freckleton, and I'm a certified Optavia coach and registered nurse. And I'm still getting notifications, so I hope that stops. All right. Okay, thank you. And tonight we are going to be talking about increasing fulfillment. And this is found in element 22 of your life book, also found in 2.6 in the Habits of Health book. And it's called Aligning Your Habits with What Matters Most. So I have a question for you. How many of you thought that Optavia was just about weight loss when you first heard about the program or had your first conversation? Either raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat thread if you're like, oh, I'll just do this program to lose weight. And that's what you thought it was all about. All right, I see lots of 1s. Okay, only 1s. That's really common, actually. Most people think that health or even Optavia is just about how you feed your body, the nutrition, or how much you exercise. And then as long as you're not sick and you don't have a disease, then you're good. But with Optavia, we want to take a larger, more holistic view of the whole body. And a large part of being healthy, being a healthy and vibrant person and having a high quality of life, it's actually based on how fulfilled you are in life and how much your habits are aligned with what matters most. This isn't a very common conversation. So that's why we wanted to address it today. We want to broaden your personal vision of what your optimal health looks like. And we hope you can see beyond just weight loss and nutrition and exercise and into a life rich with meaning and purpose. So to begin with, I want to ask you, do you know what really matters to you? Do you know what really matters to you? A lot of people can't answer this question, but if you can, put one to 3 things in the chat thread of the things that you know matter most to you. So look for the chat thread. Okay, we've got family, God, health. Family, faith, God, health, family, and God. Okay, we got a pattern here. Family and God. My family, being able to be active, relationships, family health, grandkids. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, and you can keep sharing. But I have a question. If I were to watch your life, would it be obvious that those things were in fact most important to you? If not, it's not a surprise because modern culture teaches us that we measure our success based on our possessions, our house, our car, our income, our social status, Facebook, the kind of phone we use, the style of clothes we wear. It's so easy these days for the stuff in our life to take us away from what really matters. And an interesting thing is, despite all of our material wealth now, our generation ranks our lives lower, the quality of our lives lower than our parents for the first time in history. And so it's easy for that to cloud what your priorities are. If I did watch your life, how much time would I see you actually spending time in what you said is your priority? And so, or maybe I'd see you, if I was an alien, I didn't know what you're doing, maybe I'd see you mindlessly scrolling on social media for most of the day, or watching TV, or shopping online for the next thing you want. And so really take a look, the way I live my life, is it reflecting what's most important to me? In Dr. A's Habits of Health book on page 462, it shares a study done by Richard Lader, who spent over 20 years interviewing people in the final years of their lives. And he asked them, if you could live your life over again, what would you change? And he found that 3 universal truths emerged. Number 1, they would have paid more attention to the big picture. They said they spent so much time being busy that life just seemed to pass them by. Is that happening to you right now? Number 2 is they would have taken more risks. They would have found work that was more meaningful to them, and they would have had the courage to be better friends, parents, sons, or daughters. And number 3, they would have left a legacy and made more of a difference. So where are you there? Waiting until the end of your life and discovering that you wish you'd have done this, I can't imagine anything worse. What a tragic realization to have. And Dr. A says this, and it really stabs you in the gut. He says, if you're living for your vacations, you're not going to enjoy a long, optimally healthy life. In fact, finding out what really matters and acting on it can make all the difference in the world. And I know it has for me personally, and it has for Dr. A. So are you ready to take action on that and increase your life fulfillment? I want to share with you Dr. A's story. You don't get to hear this version as much. Us coaches know it. So I want to share it with you clients and others. So get to know the man behind Optavia and see that he truly lives what he teaches. Dr. A became a doctor in Ohio, and he graduated from a newly emerging specialty of critical care from the nation's top program. And he became the director of critical care and soon found the love of his life, Lori, and they were married. They built a gorgeous home. They had a 500-gallon saltwater aquarium because he loved the ocean since he was a child, and they had 2 beautiful daughters. But what happened was Dr. A found himself working 100 hours a week, living a very stressful life. He would jump out of bed in the morning just to immediately be bombarded by healthcare providers. He started gaining weight, his sleep deteriorated, and he wasn't having fun anymore. And on top of that, he was very frustrated with how little he could do to help people recover from lifestyle-induced diseases. He wanted to help there. And he found he rarely ever saw his family. And he started resenting going to work and spending so much time away, which was among his top priorities in life. If I would have asked him, like I asked you guys, he would have said family. But when you watched his life, it did not show that. He wasn't honoring it. And so he knew he had to make some changes. So he chose to leave his practice behind, this very successful practice, and everyone loved him. He sold everything, and he drove his family across the country to begin what is now Optavia. And so his and Lori's dream was to help people create health and work on these lifestyle habits, and in the process rediscover their own health and live their priorities. They were making no money. They lived on credit cards in a small rented house. And he says something curious happened. That even though they left their fancy house and belongings and weren't living an extravagant life anymore, he started to have fun again. And his stress went down. And he had time for his family that went on long car rides together. He lost weight and he started getting healthier. And so after focusing his time and efforts and building his life around what he knew mattered most, and if you heard me, he sold everything. He left a very secure job. That's a mega transition. Dr. A now shares that he lives an incredible, fulfilling, and thriving life. And you can too. It's a matter of really understanding what you want. And I'll share that I relate to Dr. A. I used to be a nurse. And nursing is a wonderful field, but I found myself in an area of nursing that just didn't fulfill me. I wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't helping people create health the way I had hoped. And one of my favorite parts was clocking out of work. I hate to say it. And one day I looked in the window and thought, is this all? Is this what being an adult is? And making it through each day and finally living when you get home. And I didn't want that. And so I transitioned away from nursing into full-time health coaching, and we call it Nursing Reimagined. And I love this quote. It's by Dr. A. He says, if we can discover what really matters to us and find a way to bring our needs for both success and fulfillment into alignment, we can we can elevate ourselves to lives full of order and purpose. And as an immediate benefit, when our minds and heart are in alignment this way, our daily joy increases and our stress begins to vanish. The hassles of everyday life become more tolerable, and that in itself has a direct positive influence on your immune system and our health. Interesting. And since doing this, I live an amazing life full of fulfillment that I just can't get enough of. So I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Megan Ingring, who's a doctor of nursing and nurse practitioner, who's a great example of organizing her life around what matters most. And she'll share about what we call the fulfillment and success continuum. So go ahead, Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you here tonight and able to share on one of my favorite topics, finding purpose and the fulfillment and success continuum. Similar to most human beings, I've kind of run the bases here and I've learned a lot about myself along the way. So I'll share my story with you as I explain the continuum in a few moments. But I'd like to start with one of my favorite quotes that is pertinent to this topic. So the Dalai Lama once said that what surprised him most about humans is that we sacrifice health in order to make money. Then we sacrifice money to recuperate our health. We are so anxious about the future that we don't enjoy the present. The result being that we don't live in the present or the future. We live as if we're never going to die and then die having never really lived. So how do we avoid this trap of human nature? In Optavia, our purpose is to help people enjoy life, to create not only optimal health, but optimal well-being and happiness. As a nurse practitioner and lifestyle coach, I've found that if an individual doesn't have purpose, helping them stay motivated long enough to create long-term health is an uphill battle. So tonight, we're going to teach you a system that will help you find purpose and build your life around what matters most to you. So if you have one handy and you're not driving, break out a pen and paper. We're going to do a little exercise here together. Next slide, Kirtley. So think about what makes you happy in this life and start to write some things down. There are 6 general categories of things that make people happy. So most people in our culture look to extrinsic aspirations for happiness. These are things outside of ourselves. Think about the things you want in your life. Money in the bank, nice car, the big house, the better position at work, vacations, clothes, gadgets, maybe being debt-free. The things our culture tells us that we need to be successful and thus happy. You probably have a big list of these things. Most of us do. But here's a little secret that maybe some of you are already recognizing. These things will never make us feel happy unless we also have fulfillment. And fulfillment is found through intrinsic aspirations. These are the things inside of us, the things that give our life meaning. Spending your days with people you love, having healthy, supportive relationships, growing as an individual, and giving back to your community in a way that feels good. Now, we know Dr. A encourages us to evaluate our current reality before we can move forward toward meaningful change. So let's do a little exercise together, remembering that current reality is an acquired taste. Okay, so based on how you're feeling today, rate your current feelings of success 1 through 10. 10 being the most success you can imagine based on those extrinsic things in your life. How successful you feel in your finances and the things you have in your life. Write your number down or commit it to memory for a minute, but hold it lightly. These things change throughout our life. So just pick a number 1 through 10. Next slide. Now we're going to look at fulfillment. Rate your current level of fulfillment 1 to 10. 10 being the most fulfilled you can imagine being with those intrinsic things. Again, this is about your relationships, personal growth and development, achieving goals and feeling good about your work. Write that number down too. And on the next slide, we're going to put them together. Okay, so this is the fulfillment and success continuum. You can find your quadrant by drawing a vertical line through your number on the success scale and a horizontal line across your number on the fulfillment scale, and see where they intersect. Which quadrant? Burned out, worn out, contented, or thriving? Feel free to share your answer in the chat if you want. I don't think we're going to do a poll on this one, but it's just interesting to see that so many of us, oh good, we do have the poll. Wonderful. So please answer the poll. This is anonymous, and if we all answer, we probably will see a wide variety of results. Now, if you're like I was and you're not thrilled about where you landed on this first go around, don't worry. In fact, you should celebrate because you're here with us right now, and we believe in possibility and change and growth at Optavia. Now, if you landed in thriving today, I hope you're coaching on our team already and bringing people along with you. If you're not, you should stay on after this topic so we can chat. Okay, good. See, wide variety, we're kind of all over the board in all 4 quadrants. Okay, Kirtley, you can go ahead and share the next one. Well, here's where I was when I found Optavia. And I'll tell you, without ever having seen this graphic, I already knew I was burned out. So this was not a surprise. Did you know that this feeling is so common that burnout actually became a medical diagnosis in 2019? It's true. And guess what? The treatment and management recommendations are exactly what Dr. A wrote in his book and what Jenny will share with us shortly. So here I was in July 2020, burned out. I'm a well-loved cardiology nurse practitioner, but I felt like I was failing. I wanted to help people get healthy and reverse their chronic disease more than anything. But the tools and strategies I was using weren't working. I was making good money, more than I ever had actually, but essentially still living paycheck to paycheck with significant student loan debt, old cars, a tiny house, and investments we didn't understand. So on the success versus failure line, I gave myself a 5. Middle of the road, I was fine. That 4-letter word that often prevents us from becoming great. Next slide. As you can see, the past 21 months have been life-changing for me. Embracing the life book and the empowerment triangle, I was actually able to see the big, seemingly insurmountable professional obstacle I faced as my way forward. I found a new nurse practitioner position doing similar work in my community, which created an opportunity for me to network and foster new relationships in the medical community. I became a coach for Optavia, and after observing for a few months and seeing that the weight loss plan actually worked with my first 5 clients, I decided to really plug into the coaching mentorship plan. And that worked too. So now I had 2 new jobs, an evidence-based lifestyle change and weight loss program that worked. And I started feeling more successful, helping more people through Optavia, and eventually reduced my hours in clinic without even taking a pay cut. So with fewer hours in clinic, I now have more time with family, more time for personal development, and I've expanded my circle of no drama friends, you guys, and the people I'm here in Dallas meeting this week. And I started giving my time for things like a weekly walking group and a life book class at church. It did take a lot of hard work and saying yes to my future self, even when I wanted to say no to working in the moment. My husband wasn't happy because I was working more for a while, but because the work was bringing me fulfillment, purpose, and feelings of success, I was able to persevere. I knew I was working toward my vision for our family, and now we're reaping the rewards of the work I did then. Well, you might be thinking, well, that's great for you, Dr. Ingbring, but I'm burned out too, and my situation's different. I'm really stuck here. I can't see my options. And I want you to know, first of all, I couldn't see mine at first either. Second, I believe in you. We believe in you and your ability to create change. And third, this doesn't happen overnight. Just stick around, listen to what Jenny has to share, pick one action step to move forward with, and keep coming back to this group. The system works.
Okay, so I'm Jenny, and thanks Megan for all of that. I am product of Megan's belief in someone because she is my amazing coach. So thank you for sharing tonight. I love action steps, but first let's go back and look at the poll results. Kirtley, will you share those results? I don't know if you guys could see those, but I was watching them come in and it said that most of you are in the contented, a large majority, 40%, that's almost half. So most of you are in the contented. So feeling successful, but also feeling some failure in your life as well, feeling happy with some things, but also feeling like you're failing. So I'm going to close that. Based on these answers, it's clear that our situations are all different. So if we go back to Megan's story, she moved between the quadrants, which I think is really cool. And I'm willing to bet if we asked her, she moves between quadrants pretty frequently as she's learning and growing and changing. So this is the amazing part of our life's journey, is our life path is not ever fixed. It's something that's always changing, and we can shift at any time because we are the creators of our own stories, the dominant force in our lives, if you will. So next slide, or if you'll share the slide, Kirtley. So many of us have written the story of how our lives are, and we follow that script like a playbook. I know I sure was looking at the playbook a lot more because I thought that was what I was supposed to follow. I thought that gaining weight during multiple pregnancies, being exhausted and depressed, working myself to the bone, being a wife, a mom, a nurse, I thought that was what I was supposed to be doing because that's what generations before me had been doing. So that person is me on the left 18 months ago. And that person was definitely living in the worn out quadrant and maybe even to the burned out quadrant. And I was making a decent living. I had a beautiful life and a great family, but I was not feeling fulfilled. And when I first opened my life book, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I saw the glaring reality. I was just surviving in my life. I've spent the last 18 months learning to be less of the victim and more of the dominant force in my own life. And thanks to Altavia, I have the skills to flip the script and write my story in a way that is fulfilling and exciting to me. So on the next slide, you'll see this cute little hand. So my professional experience included 10 years of intensive care nursing, which often included walking patients through the end of life process with their family members. And I met a man once whose wife passed suddenly right before his planned retirement. He was a hardworking, frugal, thrifty man who took good care of his family and provided well for them. He was happily married, dedicated to his profession, and had saved well for retirement. He was ready for that next phase. And when he lost his wife unexpectedly, right before their season of enjoying the fruits of their labor of building this life together, he made one statement at that point that really stuck with me. He said, "I wish I would have taken more time before this season to be with my wife. We will never be able to enjoy the freedom of retirement. All of this means very little without her here to share it." So when it comes to the end of the life, no one wishes for more money or more hours on the job or a bigger house, but they do wish for more time with the ones they loved. And they do cherish the memories and the experiences made with their loved one. So how do we lead a more fulfilling and exciting life? Because that sounds so exciting, right? And some people feel like they're called, they have a purpose, and they, something feels like just kind of landed in their lap, right? And I remember hearing people say, "This is my calling." And I thought, that's not me. Am I missing something? What am I missing? And I've never felt that draw to a purpose. So if you are truly the dominant force in your life, a meaningful life won't just happen to you, and it won't just fall into your lap. A meaningful life is something you have the ability to create. So according to researcher Emily Nagoski, meaning is what helps us thrive when things are going well, and it helps us cope when things are going wrong in our lives. So meaning is not found, it is made or created. So let's talk about some action steps. Dr. A talks about 3 aspirations that will help you guide you to help find a meaning in your life. So Megan talked about these, the relationships, growing as an individual, and contributing to your community. I want to point out that none of these have to do with status or fame. These aspirations will present differently for each of us. So that means meaning is unique to the individual. So ask yourself, why do you want the things you want? Is it for status? Is it for keeping up with the Joneses? Is it having the newest, latest technology? Is it for fame? What are those things? And Dr. A says, if you find you want a lot of external things, ask yourself why. Make sure that reason is truly aligned with your fundamental aspirations and not just a short-term effort to feel successful at the cost of your long-term goals. So creating fulfillment in your life and meaning in your life can be simple, and it will be unique to you. So here's a few simple suggestions. Follow your passion. What brings you joy? What really lights you up every time you think about it? Think of a time in your life when you felt powerfully that you were doing what you were meant to be doing. What was it in this scenario that created a sense of meaning for you? Follow that passion and creative energy. Find something or someone to be passionate about. Find that thing that makes you excited to jump out of bed every morning. This doesn't come naturally to most of us, actually. Our brains want to go to the negative first. So it may take time to discover what really gets you excited, but don't give up. Persistence will pay off. In the meantime, take up a new hobby, a sport, a craft, an adventure, something that makes you smile more. And then explore nature. Even just a few minutes outdoors will brighten your mood and reinvigorate you to move forward. And last, spend time with others. As one of my favorite authors says, Brene Brown, connection is why we are here, and we are hardwired for that connection. So write a note to a friend, reach out to a family member, find a group of people with common interests. Facebook is a great place to find those common interest groups. So start looking around, find people that you can connect with. And finally, like Megan said, fulfillment doesn't happen overnight. It takes intentional observation of your life, trial and error, and a lot of persistence. Don't give up on that dream. You may have to go through a process of adding and deleting as you go along, but that's okay. Creating means causing something to happen because of your actions. So keep taking action and see what happens. Be the dominant force in your life and create your story on your terms.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We're going to wrap up with Laura, the amazing Laura Tripp, and with her story of how she's implemented this in her life. So go ahead.
Thanks, Kirtley. So I used to live the burned out quadrant. I was physically tired all of the time. I scheduled my day around my naps. I lived in fear of something breaking or breaking down around my home, and I was always angry. I felt like it was me against the world, and I had to do all the things, make dinner, clean the house, run the kids to all their activities. And it was only me that could make those things run smoothly. So every problem brought to me by my kids, my friends, my family, or my employees was treated with drama, and it was painful to deal with. The worst of all, I had lost me. I didn't know what I liked to do anymore. If you'd asked me what I wanted to do with my free time, all I could say was watch a movie. But then I found Optavia, and I found a new way of thinking. I learned how to get healthy physically and emotionally. Yes, I have lost and kept off 90 pounds, but I've gained so much more. I have gained knowledge and skills of emotional management, and I've healed broken relationships. Now, I'm my worst critic, so I know how I used to be. I yelled all the time, from the moment that I woke up my children in the morning until the time that they went to bed at night. It was just how I communicated with my kids. And looking back, I feel so sad for the damage that I caused my children and our relationships. It's hard for me to see the improvement that I have made because I see how far I still want to go to become the person I want to be. So my husband and my children, though, they have seen some of my positive changes. So I asked them for an example that I could share with you. And this was when my daughter revealed that the only reason she felt comfortable sharing her feelings and thoughts of depression and sadness recently was because she knew that I would listen and let her express herself. She pointed out that in the past, I would have tried to solve the problem or completely ignored what was happening. It was the only way I knew how to handle life: attack or ignore, fight or flight. But she knew that I was open to hearing her and I was not going to try to fix her. So she opened up. Now, I won't pretend that my mind wasn't swirling with concern, as well as wondering what steps I was going to take as the mom to save my child. But I have learned that relationships are more valuable than problems to be solved. And so I sat in silence as she expressed some very sad and very tender feelings. Learning to navigate feelings and relationships and how to listen and speak so that others feel loved, seen, and heard is my greatest goal. And as an Optavia coach, I have had the opportunity to be tutored in emotional management, and I value every chance I get to lean in and learn and grow from my amazing leaders and my coaches. So now I no longer live a burned out life, but I have moved to the contented and even sometimes thriving quadrants. I don't have to do it all myself. And if you were to ask what I want to do now, I would have a list, and it ranges from reading books and hiking and actually playing with my kids. But most importantly, I love to help other people find the blessing of hope. Thanks, Kirtley.
Oh, how can I talk after that? Thank you so much, Laura. This has been such an amazing webinar, Healthy Together time with Megan and Jenny sharing. I hope you have felt that and felt moved and inspired to increase the vision of your life and take action to increase that fulfillment as well. We are the dominant forces of our life. I'm going to stop recording. Yes.